Chapter 2. The Voyeurs' voyage begins. Carl guided them to the doghouse. Rachel shoved the mayonnaise back into the hamburger and picked it up, and the urn followed. Harley squished her perfect ass into the tiny doghouse, along with Rachel, the urn, the hamburger, the pig, and Carl, who I may remind you is wearing nothing but a tank top. They all squished into the sad old doghouse and looked at Carl. No one said anything, they just stared at him, waiting for him to do something. "Well?" Rachel said. "Oh yeah, we were doing something," Carl shouted as he remembered. He pulled a string hanging from the small ceiling, and part of the floor opened up. There was a toilet underneath. Everyone stared at the toilet and back up at Carl in confusion. "Just trust me on this one," he said. "May I have this?" He gestures to the unconscious hamburger that Rachel is holding. He takes it from her and throws it in the toilet and flushes it. The hamburger awakens as it swirls down the glory hole to hell, then vanishes. Rachel poggers. "This will lead us to the WAP," Carl says.
"The WAP?"
Harley asks.
¿Qué es un WAP?
The urn screams in confusion. "The WAP is this mystical being and knows all. The WAP can train us to use our Kegel muscles and help fight the person who did this to you. We will tie him up like he's surprised. We will role-play and wear a disguise. And last but not least, we will park a Big Mac truck right in this little garage." The urn smiles, and Rachel and Harley look at each other. Without hesitation, the urn flushes itself down the toilet. As it descends into the wet hole, you can hear a gargled "Soy caca!" as the urn disappears into the various pipes. Carl grabs Rachel and shoves her down the toilet with ease. Harley sits on the toilet. Carl roundhouse kicks her down the porcelain throne and dives in after her. The pig follows. At the other end, they find themselves in a well full of piss. Harley, the pig, Carl, all emerge from the anus that birthed them at the bottom of the well, and float to the top and meet up with the now conscious hamburger in the urn.
We're stuck down here now. Great. Also, what the diddly darn freaking frack snack just happened? One moment I was getting out of Rachel's stinky CRV, and the next I'm being flushed down a toilet, reborn from a gaping butthole and swimming in pee.
The hamburger says. "I'll explain to you as soon as we get out of this well," Carl says.
What the heck are you doing here? I thought you died or something.
The hamburger says angrily. "Again, I'll explain later. Now shut your patty before I eat you," Carl states. The hamburger rolls her eyes. Harley looks around the well for things to use to help them get out. She lays her eyes on the urn.
¿Qué estás mirando?
It says.
What am I looking at? I'm wondering how you're floating even though you don't have arms, legs, or will to live.
Harley says.
Yo tengo un ano y constantemente me tiro pedas y eso y me ayuda a mantenerme a flota. Porque quieres saber?
The urn says. Carl chimes in. Wait, hold on. You have a butthole and you're constantly farting and that's why you're floating?
Sí.
It confirms.
Is there any way you can float out of the well and throw down a rope?
Harley asks.
Puedo probar,
it says. It swims to the middle of the well and concentrates on its bowels. There's a deep rumbling in the piss and bubbles start to emerge. The urn shoots aggressively into the air and falls onto the grass outside the well.
Is there a rope that you can throw?
Harley shouts. The urn grunts as a rope is thrown down the well so everyone could get out. They all climb out just to find that they're on some sort of animal's tail. The animal was sleeping. It was large, wet, pink, and kinda sexy. The stink of the gang that emerged from the well awoke the beast and confused him. That confusion turns to rage, and that rage turned into shit. It shitted out of anger. Oh, it shitted everywhere. The sheer amount of shit that came out of its butthole was intense. Too intense. This triggered Carl's PTSD. Carl's parents were never really paid attention to him when he was little, so he was stuck with his grandma for most of his childhood. Now, the size of this woman was astronomical. When Carl was 4 years old, he and his grandma shared a bed, and he remembered how his dad always told stories about how his grandma would rip ass and create tidal waves, and because his grandma was nothing but flubber, she just vibrated while making grotesque noises. He thought that it was just a myth, but one night, when he and his grandma were fast asleep, he heard it. He thought he was going to die. It was the most terrifying moment of his life, I shit you not, pun intended. Carl had a really bad peeing the bed problem, so he woke up from his sleep after hearing a terrifying noise, and when he felt wetness, it wasn't anything unusual. He got up to go tell his dad that he peed the bed until he looked over at his grandma, and in the general direction of her ass, spewing liquid all over his pajamas. He knew in that moment that his life would change forever. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, life goes on. Well, except for her, she's fucking dead.